Hello, friends. First of all, welcome to 2026. I hope you guys had a very happy new year. I'll be honest, I spent New Year's Eve / New Year's morning in the ER with my husband. He's fine, by the way. He'll be fine. That was a rough way to start the new year. And my whole family has been super sick. So if you hear that in my voice, that's why. I hope you guys have had a much better start to your New Year's than I have. I wanted to take some time to talk about some of my favorite books from 2025 and also share some of the fan art that I made for those books. I am really excited to talk about some of those. If you don't know, because I feel like this will be relevant in a second, 2024 is the first year that I got back into reading. I took a very long reading hiatus, basically, for pretty much after high school. So from 2016 to roughly 2024, I pretty much didn't read anything. So I feel like I have kind of spent the last 2 years now obviously reading books, but also kind of catching up on books. So a lot of the books that I read in 2025, I feel like a lot of people might have already read or really enjoyed. I'm just trying to muscle my way through and catch up with everybody else. Luckily, that means that all of the really good books that came out several years ago, I can now read and know that it's probably going to be a pretty good time. The first book I want to talk about is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Again, this book came out I think a couple of years ago now, but that was when I was sadly on hiatus from reading. So I hadn't read it back then. I did read the Hunger Games trilogy originally when it first came out. I think I was in middle school. I think I was in middle school or high school. Absolutely love that series. Sorry, my SD card ran out of storage. Anyway, what was I saying? So what is this book about? So if you've read The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes follows President Snow, basically when he is a young lad. I want to say it's the 10th Hunger Games. It's not been that long, basically, since the rebellion that started the Hunger Games, where, all of the districts have to give up two of their kids to fight in this tournament, and there's only one winner. And this was basically a punishment for the districts for trying to rebel against the government. Basically, the games are not really effective at this point. I don't know if effective is the right word, but basically nobody is really interested in the games on either side. I think this is the 10th game. Yes, the 10th game. It's almost like the games are about to go extinct. The games are not really doing so well. Nobody is watching the games, basically. Nobody likes watching them, really, on either side. And so we follow President Snow. Basically, he is helping this group figure out ways to make the games more watchable, and he is vying for a spot in a big university because he is actually let me not say that. I don't want to spoil too much. So that's all I'll say about it. But I really enjoyed this book. As somebody who read the original trilogy when they first came out, I really appreciated this book sort of giving insight into how things came to be. I initially thought that this was going to be the first Hunger Games. So I was really surprised that it was the 10th, but I actually thought it was a really cool twist. From what I remember of it, neither side was really happy with how the games were. Nobody could watch it, basically. And so it's really interesting to see how all of these decisions came to be, because in the original trilogy, people go crazy for the Hunger Games, and it's this huge sport, this huge event. Everybody is obsessed with watching it. It's just really interesting to see how we got from this to that. It was really interesting. I really enjoyed that. I will say I was a little surprised. As I was reading, I was like, man, I feel like this is wrapping up really quickly, but there's still a couple hundred pages of book left. And so I was like, where is this going? Where are we taking this journey? So I was a little confused as I was reading, and I do feel like once that sort of twist happened, I was a little bit not bored, but I was just like, what are we doing? Where's this going? But I do think the ending was really interesting. The ending had me thinking about this book for several days after I finished it. Anytime a book can do that, where you're still thinking about it after you finished it several days later, I consider that a great book. So I really enjoyed this book. If you have read The Hunger Games, really recommend reading this one. I have not read Sunrise on the Reaping yet. I know that that follows Haymitch's story. I don't think I'm mentally prepared. Every time I've seen something about Sunrise on the Reaping, everyone says that it'll break your heart. Like, it's just like gut-wrenching. And I don't currently have the mental fortitude to be able to handle that right now. So eventually, hopefully this year, I will read Sunrise on the Reaping. But for now, just The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I also made my husband, as soon as I finished this book, I made my husband watch the movie with me. He was confused throughout the movie, but I did like the movie. I thought it was very good. I loved the portions, like the singing portions from, oh, what's her name? I can't think of her name, but the main character, you know, Lucy Gray. I loved the singing portions of her in that movie. Really, really beautiful. Just a stunning film. Yeah, it was, I think if you haven't read the book and try to watch that movie, at least for my husband, he was just like, what the heck is going on? But anyway, yeah, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I'm trying to pick because I have a whole bunch of books over here. But I don't think I'm going to talk about all of these. The next books that I want to talk about is One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. I don't have a physical copy of One Dark Window, but I do want to still talk about it. That one's actually my favorite from this duology. So this is one of those ones where I did not read it when everyone else did, I feel like. I feel like I'm late to the party a little bit. So One Dark Window, if you haven't read it, is kind of hard to explain. There is this sort of magic system where there are these 12 Providence cards, and each one has a special ability, and they are used throughout the kingdom to just do certain powers and things. And this kingdom is also overridden by this mist. And the mist, basically, if anybody enters into it, they go crazy, they basically end up dying. And this one was kind of confusing to me. Maybe I just like missed this in the book, but children basically end up getting infected, I think from the mist. I think it's playing in the mist. I'm not 100% sure on that. But basically, children are infected, and if they are found to have been infected, they are killed. Because I think they are given certain abilities, it's basically just too dangerous to really let them live. So they are killed, and we follow the story of Elspeth, who she was a child who was infected. I don't think we immediately learn what her like power is from being infected, but her family basically kept it hidden, and she has some sort of voice that she refers to as the nightmare, who has been in her head for several years. And we don't really know a lot about the nightmare, just that it basically appeared after she touched a nightmare card, which is one of the 12 Providence cards. And yeah, she, throughout the story, she basically gets roped into this sort of quest to combine all of the Providence cards in an effort to destroy the mist. Because the prophecy, when the cards came to be, there was a prophecy that said if you combine all of them together, the mist will be lifted from the town. For me, One Dark Window I think is better than Two Twisted Crowns. Just the atmosphere of that book is just amazing. I read One Dark Window right around like October, so right into like spooky season, and that was absolutely perfect. Like, could not have planned that better. So really enjoyed One Dark Window. There's really nothing that I didn't like about One Dark Window, to be honest. Two Twisted Crowns I did not like as much. I didn't really take notes of the books that I read in 2025, so I don't remember a whole lot. Just from what I can remember, my big problem with Two Twisted Crowns was, one, it was split POV, and there was a book I read in high school, I don't remember, I think, please don't judge me too harshly, I think it was the House of Night series. I could be wrong. I know I read some of those books, but I think there was a book where it started to get into like multiple POVs, and something about that just ruined split POV books for me. Like, anytime there's split POV, I consider immediately stopping. Like, I consider just like putting the book down. I hate split POVs for whatever reason. I don't know what that House of Night book did to me, but I can't look at split POVs the same. And unfortunately, Two Twisted Crowns is split POV, and it kind of makes sense because the way that the story goes, it just makes sense that you need split POVs because some of our characters are like split up. So that makes sense. I get it. It's just not my favorite. And I think the other problem with Two Twisted Crowns was the characters. We end up following sort of the love story of some other characters from the first book. I initially didn't really like that, but I think over time I ended up really liking that. I actually like that couple that ends up in the second book more than I think Raven and Elspeth from the first book. So I did really like that, but initially I was kind of like, it just took some getting used to, I think. But yes, still the vibes were still really good, still really well written. There's nothing I love more than when, especially a series that you've invested so much time into, just like wraps up together in like a neat little bow, like all of the strings like tie together and just everything is like complete. It just like scratches that itch in your brain. I love that. I absolutely love when books do that. And books don't always do that. Like series don't always wrap up really nicely, but when they do, it is just like chef's kiss, love it. And I do feel like this duology did a really good job of that. And then the next book I will talk about, since we're on Rachel Gillig, is The Night and the Moth. I did not, well, so I went into this book without really knowing anything about it, just that she wrote One Dark Window, and I loved that duology, so I ended up getting The Night and the Moth, and for not knowing anything about it, I had pretty high hopes. I had high expectations for this book, and I do feel like they, in general, were met. I feel like the writing was not as good. There was something off about this book. Like, something did not quite feel the same as One Dark Window, which is really disappointing. There were some things that I really liked about this book still, though. Bartholomew, that sweet, like, gargoyle, absolutely loved. He cracked me up. He literally saved this book, I think. I wasn't expecting this book to be so funny. Like, I was, like, constantly laughing, and that was such a weird juxtaposition from One Dark Window. Like, that duology was just so dark, and I don't think there was a lot of jokes in it really, but The Night and the Moth was like very scattered with like a lot of jokes, and the characters were very different from One Dark Window, and yeah, it was still good. I don't think I ever said what The Night and the Moth is about. So in this book we have these 6, I think, omens. And omens are kind of like these deity type things, and they each have a specific symbol that represents each omen. We follow the story of a diviner, and the diviners, there are, I think, 7 maybe, diviners, and what they do is they dedicate, I think, 10 years of their life to the church. They spend their time being drowned in this like small lake within the church, and whenever they drown, they are able to see these omens, and they can basically determine whether or not the omens are favorable or unfavorable to whoever, like whatever questions are being asked. So you could have villagers come and pay money to the church in order to have their omens read. Based on what the diviners see when they drown, that kind of determines how the omens view whatever it is that the villagers are asking. There's recently been a change in power. The king has come to have his omens read to see if his rule is favorable. And so our diviner, she reads it, and basically after that point, the diviners at the church end up slowly disappearing each night, like one by one. So our diviner ends up going on a adventure outside of the church to look for the other diviners and figure out what happened to them. She follows the king and his knights. Yeah, that's my baby. But she follows the king and his knights to sort of look for her diviners. Yeah, this book was a little weird. I feel like Rachel Gillig is very good at writing fairy tales. I think she does a great job of it. The atmosphere is always really, really good and really beautiful. But I think One Dark Window, of all of her works that I've read, One Dark Window is definitely still my favorite. But Night and the Moth was very good. Like, I still really liked it. It didn't hit the same for me. I'm gonna call this next one an honorable mention because when I first saw it, I knew I liked it. I could not tell you a single thing that happened in this book initially. I had to look up and just to kind of jog my memory, see some other reviews and things of like people who explain what happened in this book, that is Shield of Sparrows. So I don't want to sit here and say it's like my favorite book of 2025 when I don't remember what happened. That seems, that doesn't seem right. I'm gonna call this honorable mention. That is Shield of Sparrows. So I remember reading this book around the same time as Silver Elite, and I definitely like this one better. I think the writing in this book is a little, like, the writing kind of reminds me of Silver Elite, but that's really the only similarity to me is just the writing style. I think this one was much more well written. I think it was really I think there was more thought put into this one for sure. Yeah, I don't have a ton of thoughts on this one because again, I don't remember much of what happened, but I do remember kind of reading it right after Silver Elite and liking it a lot more. That's really the only reason I put it on this list, because I also did make some fan art for it, but I did like it. I liked it enough to draw people from it, so take that what you will. Yeah, that was Shield of Sparrows, our honorable mention. So the next books I want to talk about is another one that I think a ton of people have read before. That is Six of Crows. I absolutely loved this book. I really wish I had read this book when I was in like middle school, high school, because I would have absolutely ate it up. The like found family aspect, all of the like magical heist. That's basically what this book is, by the way. Like, we follow the story of really several characters as they are coming together to try to break into I believe it's called Ice Palace. They are basically being paid to break somebody out of the impenetrable fortress that is the Ice Palace and bring him or her safely back to Ketterdam, which is where the story is. Sorry, I just had like a coughing fit. But that is basically the gist of it, is all of these characters coming together and having to figure out a way into and out of the Ice Palace to basically kidnap somebody. I'm a little ashamed, I mentioned this on my Patreon, I'm a little ashamed that I kept this on my shelf for like over a year and just didn't read it. Like, I think I tried reading the first chapter and couldn't get into it. I found it very boring, to be honest. And I was kind of like, really? A lot of people like this book? It was just, I just didn't love it. And then thankfully I gave it another shot and just like pushed through that first chapter. And then after that, I feel like you could almost skip the first chapter. Like, I didn't really think the first chapter was totally necessary. But yeah, I feel like the characters in this book were super unique. I really haven't read a character like, especially Kaz, in a really long time, I think, especially for like a young adult book. Really, really interesting. They each had their own personality and like quirks. Super, super good character development, I think. And that kind of leads into Crooked Kingdom, which was also a really good read for me. And yes, I know these covers don't match and it bothers me too. I'm sorry, but that's just what Barnes & Noble had available at the time. What can I say? Crooked Kingdom, I did not like as much as Six of Crows, but it was still very good. I think the problem with Crooked Kingdom for me was the pacing was just different. I think with Six of Crows, because it's a heist, I think it's a very easy like roadmap to kind of follow and for the reader to follow along with, of like, okay, first we're going to do this, and then once we get that, we're going to do this, and then we're going to go here, and then we're going to do this, and like everybody has this like shared goal and everyone knows what the mission is, what the plan is. I feel like with Crooked Kingdom, that structure was no longer there, and so it just felt kind of more jumbled. And I think as a reader, you don't really know, like, what are we doing here? At least that's how I felt with it. I don't know. Maybe other people feel differently. If you liked Crooked Kingdom, let me know down in the comments how you feel about it. Because I just, for me, the pacing was the hardest thing to like about this book. But I do think the ending was really, really well done. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil anything, but like that ending, just to see like a kind of happy moment for some of these characters was really nice to see. Again, I'll share some of the fan art that I did for these books. Kaz and Inej were definitely my favorite characters. I also really liked the storyline of Nina and Mateus, I guess is how you say it. I really, really liked their storyline. I thought that was really, really well done. Liking that duology kind of spurred me to start reading the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I have read the first two. The first one is definitely my favorite. I definitely don't like this as much as the Six of Crows. it's okay. Like, it's definitely not my favorite. I feel like the pacing, again, is an issue in this book. Really, the whole series. I have the third one and I am gonna read it, but it's more so just to say that I have finished the trilogy, more so than an actual, like, want to, if that makes sense. Like, I just want to finish the series. I've already come this far. I just need to finish the series at this point. But yeah, Shadow and Bone was good. I think there are moments of greatness in this book. Like, there are moments that I'm just like, I absolutely love. There's just so many times in between that are just not great. And I think that the second book, let me just get it. This book really almost sent me into a reading slump for sure. It took me like a month to get through this whole book. I don't read like 20 books a month or anything. I read like maybe 2 or 3. But for me to stay on this book for so long, I was just so done with it. I don't know if it's like characters on boats. Like, I don't know if that's my problem. I really don't. I don't know what it was about it. The like last third of this book did get better and was good. Like, I did like that. That it like spurred me just enough to want to finish the series. But the first like 2/3 of that book, I just was like, this is just dragging on. Like, what are we doing? Where are we going? Why? Like, it just was not great. The Shadow and Bone are not my favorite books of 2025. I just wanted to mention them because I was talking about Six of Crows. But yeah, I think that is gonna do it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing some of the fan art that I made this year. I really want to let me know if you guys like books. If you like talking about books, if you enjoy watching videos about books. I really want to do more videos about books and trying to find ways to sort of mesh books and art together. I thought about just starting like a second channel just for book content. But I think that would be too much work, to be honest, to try to run like 2 channels. I don't want to like stress myself out like that, but I do really like talking about books and like sharing books, and I love getting book recommendations and just getting other people's opinions on books. So I do really still want to share like book content, but I do want to kind of find a way to make it art related. But if you guys enjoy seeing book kind of content, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Other than that, let me know what your favorite reads of 2025 were. Let me know what your anticipated reads of 2026 are. I just finished my very first book of the year, which was The Raven Scholar. That sucker is like 800 pages, I think, and I finished it in like 3 days. Like, that's how much I loved that book. So we are starting 2026 off with a very strong start, minus my entire household being sick. Like, so far that's been the highlight, is reading a really, really good book. So yeah, sorry, another coughing fit. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys!